Shalom. All praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh, the King of Terrors, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Bracha, Kodash, and double honors unto my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, beginning with the 144,000 prophets, and Yahweh, the King of Terrors, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, willing. This lesson is edifying. My name is Kwanawath, and this is the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. In the news from the BBC, U.S. discussing options to acquire Greenland, including use of military, says White House. Published 6 hours ago by Jude Sharon, Washington. And another similar report by NBC News on YouTube. White House says U.S. military is an option to acquire Greenland.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security. And I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people.
We have to have Greenland. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can't. We need Greenland for national security. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need it for national security. We have to have it.
So the United States has its sights fixated on acquiring Greenland, whether it be through a purchase or military force. U.S. President Donald Trump has been discussing a range of options to acquire Greenland, including use of the military. The White House said. The White House told the BBC that acquiring Greenland, a semi-autonomous region of fellow NATO member Denmark, as Greenland is a part of NATO, was a national security priority. The statement came hours after European leaders issued a joint statement rallying behind Denmark, which has been pushing back against Trump's ambitions for the Arctic island. Trump repeated over the weekend that the U.S. needed Greenland for security reasons, prompting Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen to warn that any attack by the U.S. would spell the end of NATO. As again, Greenland is a part of NATO. And so we are witnessing the rapid increase in the division between America and its allies, which is a part of biblical prophecy, as we read in Revelation 17 chapter, in the opening of this lesson. And so we are living and witnessing high prophetic events across the globe. The White House said on Thursday the president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal. And of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. And just recently, the U.S. had invaded Venezuela and capturing its president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. So now the U.S. has control over Venezuela and its resources, which it's exploiting, okay, for its own interests. Because this is the nature of the devil, a deceiver who has an insatiable appetite that can never be satisfied, as it is written, who cannot be satisfied, and is as death, because he could never have enough. He coveteth greedily all the day long, as it is written. And to covet means to have strong desire for your neighbor's possession, something that does not belong unto you. You can refer to a documentary that we always reference entitled The Confession of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, wherein Mr. Perkins explains the framework of how the U.S. goes about indebting nations through the IMF, through loans that would entrap its government and people. And if they would refuse to sign these particular loan agreements, they would send in what are known as jackals or assassins. If these assassins fail, the next step is staging a coup, which we saw an attempt at that many years ago in Venezuela. If that fails, the final solution is to send in the military, and we just recently witnessed that. So this is the nature of the insatiable devil, and now he's showing the world his horns, including his allies, in this case Denmark. And as a result, the alliance between America and its allies are beginning to crack and break at an alarming pace. And again, this is a part of biblical prophecy. Here, in the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 16, which again reads, and the 10 horns, which the 10 horns are the EU nations, which thou sawest upon the beast, which the beast is the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. The beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And these 10 horns, which represents the EU nations, thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore that we read about in Revelation. 16, 17, really this entire chapter, which that whore is America Babylon the Great. She rides upon the beast. She controls the beast. She has great influence over the beast. These shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate. How are they going to do that? By way of thermonuclear fire, which they will shoot upon her according to biblical prophecy during the Third World War. You can read about this in the book of Jeremiah 49, Jeremiah 50. You could also read about the destruction of the whore in Isaiah the 13th chapter, Revelation the 18th chapter, and many others. Okay? And so it reads on to say, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That is, fire from the weapons of the Lord's indignation, which are the ICBM nuclear missiles. Okay, pursuant to Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 25. So now let's read on in the article. We'll play a brief clip and then we'll conclude the lesson, Lord is willing. NATO is a transatlantic military group where allies are expected to go to each other's aid in case of external attacks. But what if you had the leading superpower within the bloc attack another member? That would cause the entire treaty to fall apart and implode. Okay? And that's exactly what's going to happen according to biblical prophecy. All the toes are being broken up. They're crumbling. On Tuesday, 6 European allies expressed support for Denmark. Greenland belongs to its people, and only Denmark and Greenland can decide on matters concerning their relations. The leaders of the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, and Denmark said in a joint statement. So they opposed the US's ambitions to obtain Greenland, whether it be through diplomatic means, either through a sale or through the use of military force, which that's on the cards according to the U.S. government, according to the President of the United States of America, right? AKA, prophetically, spiritually, Babylon the Great. Stressing they were as keen as the U.S. in Arctic security. The European signatories of the joint statement said this must be achieved by NATO allies, including the U.S. collectively. They also called for upholding the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, territorial integrity and the inviolable of borders. And TJT, aka Nero, doesn't give a damn about the UN Charter. Okay? And remember, he's being controlled by the tiny tops. It reads on to say Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederick Nielsen welcomed the statement and called for respectful dialogue. Dialogue must take place with respect for the fact that Greenland's status is rooted in international law and the principle of territorial integrity, Nielsen said. The issue of Greenland's future resurfaced in the wake of the U.S. military intervention in Venezuela, as I mentioned earlier, during which elite troops went in to seize the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, and take him to face drugs and weapons charge in New York. The day after that raid, Kathy Miller, the wife of one of Trump's senior aides, posted a map on social media of Greenland and the colors of the American flag alongside the word soon. So they obviously have plans in place to obtain Greenland, even if it means by military force. And there's also been mention of Cuba, Mexico, Canada. So this man is truly showing his horns and being a global bully, okay, even towards his own allies. On Monday, her husband, Stephen Miller, said it was the formal position of the U.S. government that Greenland should be part of the U.S. Even if Greenland opposes this. Asked repeatedly in an interview with CNN whether America would rule out using force to annex it, Miller responded, "Nobody's going to fight the U.S. over the future of Greenland. In other words, we'll do whatever the hell we want, and ain't nobody will be able to stop us and say shit about it." In hood terms. Right? So this man has his sights fixed on his allies' territory, which in the end is going to be made clear that, you know, they're no longer allies. Excuse me. All right. Where's out here, man? Bitches is drunk and all kind of shit out here. Bugged out. Terrible look. What he goes on to say, Slovakia. Our common adversaries have been increasingly active in the Arctic. That is a concern that the United States, the Kingdom of Denmark, and NATO allies share, the spokesperson said. U.S. Secretary of State, the ambiance in the background, Marco Rubio also told lawmakers at a classified briefing on Capitol Hill on Monday that the Trump administration did not plan to invade Greenland. And Scripture says to never trust thine enemy. This man deceives his own, stabs his own in the back. But says, and if he do it good, he do it for them willingly, and at the end, you shall what? Declare his wickedness. But mentioned buying it from Denmark, the Wall Street Journal reports. Greenland and Denmark previously said they had asked to meet Rubio quickly to discuss the American claims on the island. Denmark's foreign minister, Lars Loki Rasmussen said, speaking with America's top diplomat should resolve certain misunderstanding. Senator Eric Schmidt, a Republican from Missouri, emphasized the national security aspect when he spoke to the BBC on Tuesday. I think they're just in talks right now, he said. My hope is that Europe would understand that a strong America is good for Western civilization. Let's listen to the 52-second clip.
For far too long, I think we've been vulnerable in this way. Greenland and the coast of Greenland is not really guarded by anyone right now, and the Russians and the Chinese are known to be surveilling that area. They have their own designs, and when you look at a map sort of from the top of the globe, you realize the significance that Greenland has in the Western Hemisphere for our own defense here in the United States. And so I think it's very important that we move forward with this. I think they're just in talks right now. My hope is that Europe would understand that a strong America is good. It's good for Western civilization, as opposed to sort of fighting the Americans on this thing. That maybe the effort could be, all this outrage could be used towards actually ratcheting up defense spending for the defense of their own continent. That's my perspective of it. And so the United States clearly has an interest in the Western Hemisphere, and we have a president that keenly understands that.
And in addition to these so-called strategic acquisitions for the purpose of national security, these particular nations and regions around the globe have rich deposits of natural resources which are essential for the forwarding of Esau's fourth industrial revolution, especially with the current boom of artificial intelligence, which will require a lot of energy, including nuclear, electrical, certain minerals, and so on and so forth, that would be required to advance this particular technology, which they'll use to, build humanoid robots, enhance their military, and all kind of different stuff, just like they're doing right now. So this man has a very deep, dark agenda, because he has, in the end, a new world order that he seeks to achieve in the very near future by the year 2030, according to their 2030 agenda. And we can clearly see that the Lord is hastening the day for the elect's sake, because this thing is speeding up. We have months, months, not years, but months rather, based on how things are moving so swiftly, until, Lord's when the Lord puts in the spirit of the elite of the Edomites to introduce and subsequently mandate that chip across the globe. Okay? So we are very close to the end. And let me get a scripture, because I know I've been, reading the article. I haven't really brought another scripture after reading Revelation 17. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33, verse 33. It says, and when this cometh to pass, what? When these prophecies come to pass, these visions come to pass. Lo, which means look, and we're looking, we're measuring the times diligently in themselves. And we're clearly seeing that we are at the end, and the end is manifest. So the inward thought of the devil is that his house shall continue forever, because he's placing many years and decades upon his rulership. But we know that we are at the end of his rulership, and the end is manifest. And with the end comes a new beginning, and that new beginning is the beginning of the kingdom of Yashar Allah, Israel, with Yahushua being at the head of that, followed by King David and the rest of the elect, after the will of the Heavenly Father Yahweh. Okay, see the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 9. So we know that we are very close. Okay. So reading on, it says, lo, it will come, then shall they know that a prophet had been among them. That's when 2/3 are going to realize and acknowledge that, damn, these men are prophets. The elder apostles, the bishop elders, the elder brothers, the prophets, the teachers, the great millstone, and are true affiliates. Okay, these are the men of the Lord that we doubted, that we scoffed at, we scorned at. Then shall they know that a prophet had been among them. So, concluding the article, Trump floated his idea of acquiring Greenland as a strategic U.S. hub in the Arctic during his first presidential term, saying in 2019, essentially, it's a large real estate deal. There is growing interest from Russia and China in the island, which has untapped rare earth deposits. See? As melting ice raises the possibility of new trade routes. In March, Trump said America would go as far as we have to go to get control of the territory, even if it means invading it, acquiring it by way of military force, which will implode and destroy America's alliance with its allies. Because one thing will lead to the next, and then the next, and then the next. So this thing is moving quick, man. So we're keeping an eye on all things, especially the chip. Because once that chip gets mandated, man, things are going to start to hasten. Keep an eye on the Middle East, so-called Middle East, on the least of the flock. Things are ongoing with Iran as well, and the state of Israel. Greenland, which has a population of 57,000 people, has had extensive self-government since 1979 through defense and foreign policy, and foreign policy remain in Danish hands. While most Greenlanders favor one second, Slovakia. While most Greenlanders favor eventual independence from Denmark, opinion polls, show overwhelming opposition to becoming part of the U.S., which already has a military base on the island. Morgan N. Jegu, 27, an Inuit living in Ilulissat, or Ilulissat, if I pronounce that correctly, in the west region of the country, told the BBC it had been terrifying to listen to the leader of the free world laughing at Denmark and Greenland and just talking about us like we're something to claim. We are already claimed by the Greenlandic people. Ka la alit Nat means the land of the Greenlandic people, Morgan said. He added that he was worried about what happens next, wondering whether Greenland's prime minister may suffer the same fate as Maduro, or even about the U.S. invading our country. This concludes the article. And in finishing the lesson, let's listen to this brief clip from the NBC, and then I'll catch you brothers, Lord's willing, and a few sisters in the next lesson.
Tonight, the White House revealing President Trump and his advisors are discussing a range of options for acquiring Greenland, adding that utilizing the U.S. military is always an option. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio tells lawmakers the administration is not eyeing an imminent invasion and that the goal is to buy the island from Denmark, according to the Wall Street Journal, citing people familiar with the discussions.
We'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it.
But Denmark and other European allies are strongly pushing back at President Trump's renewed comments about taking over the Danish territory, writing Greenland belongs to its people. Overnight, top White House aide Stephen Miller dismissed the need to use the military.
Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
It comes as the president rallied House Republicans ahead of the midterms, warning them if Democrats take back the House, they'll try to impeach him for a third time.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
Tonight, the White House
So
revealing
that-
President Trump and his advisors are discussing.
I'll conclude this lesson, Lord's willing. It has been edifying and informative to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.